Product provided by Nintendo. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was already an expansive JRPG that introduced an interesting battle system and a great cast of characters that went on an emotional and fantastic adventure. It's with that said that I was quite surprised to see how Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna the Golden Country DLC isn't just DLC for the game, but might as well be Xenoblade Chronicles 1.5 or a glimpse at a possible new direction for a sequel. Xenoblade Chronicles Torna the Golden Country takes place 500 years before the events of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, taking you on a new adventure through the eyes of a new cast of characters. You play as Laura and her blade Jin, who have been running away from a troubled past for a few years now. While the story does show some of the beginnings of the issues you face in Chronicles 2, you can still play this DLC as a standalone story without ever playing the main game. However, there's no doubt you'll be rewarded with more context and relationship payoffs if you play the main game before playing this one. A good handful of the characters in this DLC, like Jin, Mithra, and Malos, all appeared in the base game but reappear in this DLC with new memories. Taking place 500 years in the past, you get to experience a lot of the flashback scenes from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with new perspectives firsthand. The story really did deliver too, evolving previously smaller scenes from the main game into much grander relevant points. I didn't just find myself caring about these characters, but was eager to go back and watch the flashback scenes from Chronicles 2 all over again in a completely new perspective with added context. Laura and Jin as a new pair of protagonists somehow managed to be a parallel counterpart to Rex and Pyra, even at times overshadowing both of them for me. Laura can be a badass warrior and a sympathetic character at the same time. She's been through a lot on her journey, and coming from a troubled past, I couldn't help but root for her despite knowing how these events would eventually turn out, having played the main game. Despite being at its core a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 DLC, Torna actually does a lot to evolve itself past the core game to feel like its own unique product. After all, you can actually buy this DLC as a standalone game if you don't already own Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Torna doesn't take long to get right into the action, pretty much forming a party and dropping you into the new battle system within a few minutes of the game. That's where the changes for this DLC pack begin. As compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna moves at a pretty rapid pace and I love it. Playing through the story quests, I always felt like I was at the right level to face bosses without needing to excessively level grind, slowing down the story pacing. The battle system also gets some nice changes that take the foundation of the base game and changes it up enough to make it feel familiar yet new. Like in the original game, standing still lets you auto attack as your skills refill and lets you execute more advanced attacks at the end of each auto attack. What's new though is how drivers and blades can interact. During battles, you can now switch between controlling a driver and a blade. It introduces a new battle mechanic strategy to matches because switching between driver and blade activates effects like topple on enemies and reheals the person you're switching out. Suddenly, you're analyzing matches to determine whether it's worth finishing a combo with the character at the chance of dying at low health, or wasting a switch because you want to activate a topple effect on an enemy. Add on to that the mechanics already established by the base game, and you get something that feels like an evolution that you'd find in a sequel, and it's really well done. Party members also play a much bigger role outside of battles. Rather than going to merchants for items, your party members can actually craft their own accessories and items at campfires. The ingredients for these creations come from exploring the open world and bringing them back to the campfire where each party member specializes in a specific type of item. Laura makes charms, Jin cooks meals, Haze makes talismans, and Mithra can attempt to cook. I found the new setup to be a great way to motivate you to explore the world, looking through every nook and cranny for new possible creations. Outside of the main story quest, you'll get side quests from NPC characters across the 2 Titan maps in this DLC package. These quests vary from fetch quests that feel like story padding to actual quests that relate to some sort of background information in the story. While they are technically optional, once you get deeper into the story, they become more of a mandatory thing. You see, eventually the campaign will require you to level up your communities, which basically means you have to complete a certain amount of side quests in a specific area to level up that community. It can end up feeling like padding to the story that puts the story at a halt if you don't do the side quests until the very end. It's actually one of the only times where the story starts to feel slow, while it adds in the extra hours of play that makes this feel like an elongated RPG. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 wasn't the best looking game on the Nintendo Switch, and that continues on with this DLC. While the worlds are expansive and the character designs are great, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 doesn't really shy away from dropping the resolution to PS2 levels, dipping under the 30 frames per second mark both in dock and handheld mode. It certainly goes to show how taxing an open world game of this nature can be on Switch hardware.
Ugh, it stinks like...
Yeah, no doubt about it. Blood. It's driving them crazy.
Spinning wheel! I like the way this is going. Green!
Legion scatter!
The Golden Country's music is absolutely fantastic. It didn't take long for the battle music to get stuck in my head with its catchy piano melody introduction. There's a nice mix of bumping fast-paced action tunes for the fight sequences and slower melancholy melodies for emotional sequences. The performances by the cast of characters were solid and honestly got me caring for the main pairing of Laura and Jin way more than I expected it to. However, some more variation in the voice acting for simple actions would have been appreciated. Lines that were said during battles or when picking up collectibles feel like they were repeated way too much. Torna the Golden Country is an example of how to do DLC well. It doesn't feel like a missing piece of a full game, but a nice piece of complementary content that doesn't just reuse old content, but evolves old mechanics into what feels like a great new foundation for a sequel. Taking place before the events of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it's like Xenoblade Chronicles 1.5 not just from a story standpoint, but from a mechanic standpoint as well. Sure, the presentation can still use some work just like the base game, but ultimately the Golden Country truly offers a continuation of the great gameplay and story from the base game across a new package that can easily take anywhere between 13 to 40 hours, varying on how quickly you rush through the main story. I give Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna the Golden Country a 9 out of 10. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. It helps more people find out about the channel, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you all very much for watching, hope you guys have a great day, and keep on gaming.